It's like Mordor is Florida.
Look, looking at the Southlands, there's definitely some
Was.
Florida in there. There's some Florida in that Southlands.
Hey, Indigo made the beat.
All right. Greetings, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Heroes Peak podcast. I am your friendly hobbit, Chris, and I'm here with a couple of my friends, and we're here to talk about Rings of Power today. Um, and number one, I'm going to introduce with the beard of a dwarven king. It's Keith. How you doing, Keith?
Let's get dangerous.
And with the musculature of a mysterious stranger who could be king or evil lord, it is. Sorry, I just looked up and you put Sauron already on your thing. James, it
Chris,
is
that's so funny.
James. Look,
Hey, what's going on, everyone? What's going on? Or am I James?
luckily I
or, am, or am I?
luckily I put not Sauron on mine, so you know I am definitely not Sauron.
Hmm.
All right, now we have talked about this. It's an 8 episode series over on Amazon Prime. Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. We talked about it at episode 3, right? We got through 3 episodes when we
Yeah.
first had our conversation, and here
Hmm.
we are, all eight episodes through. We are completely open to spoilers, so be careful if you have not watched it. I do suggest watching it first. Not that you can't piece out the information. It wasn't quite as hidden as maybe we were as fans trying to make it out to be. Um, it did go kind of in the more obvious direction, but that's okay because it was still entertaining, and that's the important part when we're watching a show is to be entertained. All right,
Yep.
all right. So we're just gonna give our overall feeling about the whole season. Tell me, at the halfway point, where were you, and then were you happy where it ended? Whether it was a little too obvious to you, or were you allowing yourself to be temporarily fooled? I'm gonna let James go first on this one.
Okay, so you and I think Mike, we did the first 3 episodes review, so I'm not gonna go over that. But in summation for Keith, I wasn't really a fan of the first 3 episodes. I think I love the cinematography. I love the special effects. I love the actual production of it. I wasn't a fan of the story for the first 3 episodes. But right as we got to episode 4, all the way through episode 8, with the introduction of a few novelty characters like Adar, some characters that don't exist in the books, but were Amazon, because of certain rights, created, which was pretty well done. I had a totally different view from episode 4 to episode 8 of the show. So at the halfway point, to answer your question, Chris, I was intrigued. I liked the show a lot. I was liking it even more than I did from the initial first 2 episodes. It went from just liking it because of production value and epicness to also liking the characters, the acting, and the story and plot at the halfway point.
All right. Now, Keith, we didn't get to talk to you at the beginning in the first 3 episodes. So why don't you tell everybody what your expertise level is with this material, with the Lord of the Rings material, and then tell us exactly that. What you felt about this series, watching it in its entirety as you started it, all of that stuff.
Well, the Lord of the Rings, I consider myself definitely an expert. I've read the books, even onto the Hobbit,
Mm-hmm.
all the movies. But like that's actually like James said, I think like the first few episodes, that was primarily the thing that kind of like I would say that I was most interested in. continued to give me the feeling of the movie of one of the Lord of the Rings movies
Hmm.
throughout. Like so, like I really kind of respected the production value because I don't know if I'm alone on this, but like a lot of times you'll get movies that translate to a TV show, an episodic TV show, and it loses some of that granular. It's you could just tell like, oh, this is a TV product, like
Right.
because certain things like there's no way you can afford to. You know what I'm saying?
What's that?
Depending on the company, I don't know what that was.
Yeah, I don't know. Can you turn up Keith's mic or turn down echo cancellation or something? There's some kind of background breathing sound.
Yeah, I can't do any of that on this app on my
Oh no!
phone.
Oh, you're on your phone. Okay.
Yeah.
A demon is on here with it.
Wait, are you hearing extra breathing? I'm not hearing it. Maybe it's me.
Yeah, I don't
So
know.
yes,
Yeah. Okay, so we'll.
unlike James, it wasn't like I was turned off or anything. It wasn't like the storyline wasn't interesting because, like, for me, the first few episodes was me kind of like challenging myself to see if I could figure out who's who. Like, so like that little game and like fleshing out that like, okay, these aren't hobbits. These are the hobbits before the hobbits. These are the these are the
Harfoots. Yeah.
Harfoot.
The Harfoots, yeah.
Because the whole time I'm thinking like, oh, like these are the Harfoots, like how the Proud Feet were like a family of hobbits.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that was like no, that's hobbit. Like that. Oh, I should say like this is the species before hobbit.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I like the little. I like a lot of the little unraveling of little tidbits and stuff like that, and the little Easter eggs that were given in the first few episodes. So that was enough to keep me in it. And I think like Jay said about like end of episode 3, beginning episode 4. Now it became more of a like a storyline capturing product. Like it's capturing you not only with the production, or you're beyond me personally, you're beyond the production at this point. So like you're fully invested in what the storyline could be.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, and to me, like I didn't think that anything was too out of the way. I like how they organically made, like I like how things were coming together kind of organically. Um, the little love tryst between the the John Legend looking the John
Halbrand?
Legend.
Are you talking about Halbrand?
No. He's talking about the Black
Oh,
Elf.
No, the
oh,
black
And
the John Legend
oh.
looking
The
elf
John Legend.
and
Okay.
and the he looks like a prettier John Legend.
I think that's
But the
Orendir.
Orange.
And
yeah, Orandir.
Yeah, he looks like an Orandir.
yeah.
But
He had some great action scenes too by that character in the fourth episode.
definitely they try to throw a little what's his name in there for me, like
Yeah.
Hello Dritz, catching the arrow. Oh, Legolas.
I was like, all right, I see what y'all trying to do. I'm with it. I'll allow it. So yeah, the only thing I didn't like, if I had to nitpick at stuff like the little love relationship, the relationship between him and the kid's mom. The kid, I initially thought like he was gonna be Sauron,
Right.
like oh that's Sauron.
He just needed a spanking. That's all it was. He wasn't Sauron. He was just a kid that really needed to be touched up.
He's not Sauron.
He needed a big brother. He needed a big brother.
Somebody to teach him about the world a little.
Yeah. The elves needed to start a Big Brother program and install a basketball court, and everything would have been hunky dory down in Southland.
Some big elf, little elf program.
The kids get little ears.
All outreach.
It's like, this is the
More
Alright.
human outreach.
the YECA.
That's right.
Alright, we're off the rails. Let's
You gotta
go.
get those Southland kids out of the trailer parks.
Yo, why do they look so dusty? Like when they were like king of the, I think that was still a halfway point, right before Mordor. When they're like king of the Southlands, I'm looking around like, what are you king of?
Yeah,
Like,
I was like, that doesn't seem like a prize. In fact, it seems like it's a little bit more work than it's worth.
Dude, those people were so ready to give up. They're like, "You got
No,
the job,
online.
man. You got the job."
There wasn't even any there was no one even questioning it. Like,
They were.
oh, does he have the satchel? Oh, okay. He must be the this is the guy.
oh,
They kneeled. They
there was
kneeled
a,
so fast. I thought they got paid to do it.
hold on. Right before that battle, I'm a sucker for montages. When they're doing a training, when they're preparing for the orcs to come in, and you can see like there was always like an old geezer who's got like no eyes. He's sharpening a bow, and then a little kid, a boy or girl, who's putting together her armor, and then you're like, these guys are gonna fucking lose miserably. Like I love those montages where
I
Yeah.
saw that scene and was thinking, this never works out.
it never works out. Whoever can pick up a spear, you're fit for battle. Like, no.
Like, by that point, when it comes down to that,
Yes. Sometimes they get to shoot arrows at like a hay dummy, and they miss, and then they finally hit. And once they hit once, they're ready for battle. You're good.
Yeah.
You got it. You'll be able to do that in the middle.
the third shot in the montage, definitely the third shot.
Yep. Now you're ready.
No,
You're
you're
ready.
right.
Like Robin Hood's got all these people in the woodlands, and he's like, "You are all good for battle, guys. Good to go."
Like,
All right. Anyway,
which scene
So-
are you on? I'm on my third. Yeah. So you know this.
so for me, for the beginning of the series, I told you guys that this is my favorite series so far. Just watching it, visually, I'm so visually like connected to it. But on top of that, one thing that a sci-fi or fantasy show has to do, a book show, whatever it is they have to introduce you to this world that's different to yours, and how is it different, but also how is it sort of the same, so you can relate to it and whatnot. And I think those first 3 episodes really felt like, I had all those notes when we first came on, because I felt they did that. Like, I got to know the elves, and I got to know the Southlanders, and I got to know the hobbits, Harfoots, and yeah. So like I felt like very well introduced to this world. They took their time. They didn't try to jump scene to scene. They didn't rush into too much action. They had a little elf action on the troll there, a little bit, nothing special, but they really
They had a little
Right.
elf action on the
a
troll.
little elf action. I don't know. Halbrand was almost got some elf action there, but then as you guys pointed out, episode 4, it said, okay, guys, you're introduced. These are our characters. This is our land. This is the world. Now let's tell you what's going on here, and start moving this mystery forward, and start playing things out, and so you can see how they are. And I think that's what made the last 5 episodes feel better than the first 3, even though like I'm in love with the first 3 episodes just because visually I don't think anything much compared to them. But I understand story-wise these other ones are much more like, okay, let's get the ball rolling. Let's put up some pins, let's knock them down, and you guys are gonna in for some cool information. And as a person who doesn't know much beyond reading The Hobbit or watching the movies, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on here that I'm going, oh, that's cool. I didn't know that happened. That's interesting. Or, like the general question, why the hell would everybody in the world take gifts from the giant evil warlord? That, why would they just be like handing shit out to them? And they're like, yeah, sure.
Well, it's like the old, when J.R.R. Tolkien was writing this, from what I've read in interviews and articles over the years, there's a lot of biblical ties, a lot of World War One and World War Two ties.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically with Sauron, it's more like people forgot Satan exists to the point where, like, he's the ultimate deceiver. Like, he's proven the world that he doesn't exist while actually actively getting you to do his deeds. So Sauron has been over 1,000, almost 2,000 years. Quote unquote, he's like a figment of people's times, and only the elves who've lived that long remember him. So of course, like, you hear of Sauron and an evil in the east, like, yeah, whatever. That's a story that we tell kids to get them to bed early. That's not true.
Right.
We're fighting these other human tribes here from the Numenor, fighting the Southlands, occasional orcs. We heard orcs might still exist, but no one's shown us these orcs. So yeah, man, Sauron was the ultimate deceiver.
And I love that part. Like, that is the key unlocking this entire show for me is Sauron. As we said ahead of time, this is all spoilers, but it's Halbrand, Sauron, the deceiver, the pretty boy. The was he heading off to Valinor to say he's sorry, or was he setting up Galadriel the whole time? Like, all of that question, and I read something that the season 2 is going to go into why Sauron was there on that raft, which will be really interesting. But this whole Galadriel getting fooled storyline, I love it. Like, I love everything about it.
So, Chris, just that you know a little bit of information,
Mm-hmm.
that's not how it went down in the books. In the books, Sauron, although he did deceive the elves, the king, the human kings, and the dwarves, he did it as a form of a fair person. The way they describe him in the books, he was of a fair body and form and shape. He's a shapeshifter, first of all, and he came upon looking at him like almost like an elf, like not like Halbrand's character who looked like he was like a mercenary or whatever. They totally switched that from the books to the show, which I actually like better. I like the fact that he looked like he was destitute, that he had a dirty, grimy past, and he was probably maybe a mercenary. I like that better than the original story of in the Sumerian of Sauron.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the few passages I've read as people have shared them online, the general idea seems to be accurate to the feeling of the passages I've read, where this dude, he got corrupted by this higher evil power, because
Morgoth.
Morgoth,
Morgoth.
and
Yeah.
then after they lost, he was kind of wandering. He like didn't know what to do with himself, and he thought he maybe had to repent and go back to the gods and be like, yeah, okay, I'm good, I'm done, I'm sorry, but decided not to. I like that whole idea for this giant evil that in the movies you see as just like this epitome of evil, but it's this quiet, just vision. There's never much to it. Just the fact that it's evil. That's it. This
But
gives us
that's
a
the
really
thing.
cool, interesting tale. Go ahead, Keith.
That's the thing. I always thought was missing from the original from the movie, because if you read the book versus the movies, and I understand like they had to truncate things to
I was gonna say, yeah.
like, but like Sauron and Gandalf were almost spiritual figures. Like they were much bigger figures to the storyline
Mm-hmm.
as opposing forces than they made it look in the movie. That's the only. That's the thing that I. And that and even the part I believe with the Balrog, which I
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was mad cool how they wove that in,
Mm-hmm.
Trixie. But the Balrog, when when Gandalf
You.
falls and fights again, like that's a years long process.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it's pages and pages of that
Yes,
battle.
that was
If I remember right.
like he was gone for years doing that battle, years.
Mm-hmm.
So like they really, in terms of time, they truncated a lot in from the book. They which was amazing to me that they could still keep the same texture of things alive, because they really did change a lot of the timeline and everything from the book. But I'm
Yeah.
saying that to say, like,
Mhm.
the way they're doing it now with Gandalf, or I'm assuming it's Gandalf. They
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
tried to trick me into believing in Sauron, but that was not working. The worst trickery ever. You're
Right.
Sauron. I'm Sauron. No, you're not Sauron. Yeah, him falling to earth like a celestial being. That's closer to what it is.
Hmm.
Like, like they are literally opposing forces of evil and good, brought it out.
And that is such an interesting, like, having watched the several times in my lifetime, I never felt like the initial offering of who Gandalf was beyond like a super powerful human dude, like, and then he levels up into,
Gandalf the
Gandalf the
White.
White,
Yeah.
right? But like, not knowing that initially they're like angel level, like these are celestial gigantic beings, and that's this show did some cool stuff with that. Whether or not you believed he was Sauron at all, but I love in the last 3 episodes you see them more, and that's these three interesting characters. I'm looking them. I had them over here. The dweller, the nomad, and the aesthetic. Ascetic,
Ascended.
whatever that means. I'm sure that means something. Um, and you're trying to figure out why they are, like, what they're doing. They're just like looking for him, right? And then when they finally find him, and they're like, "Oh, you're Lord Sauron. We saw you fall from the sky. You're awesome. Don't you remember? We're gonna help you." I was like, "Oh, that's fun." Like, as a person who knows nothing, that's a cool little twist.
So here's what they didn't explain in the show, but I've known because whatever is that those three, although not written in the original story, represent a cult. So when Morgoth
Mm-hmm.
originally came, he actually had humans and other like living
Power.
creatures
Power.
power. Like, yeah, it's like you're Satanist, you're in a cult of. And after he fell, it didn't mean your religion was wiped. It just means there was a huge vacuum, and then comes Sauron as his chief lieutenant. I was like, okay, so these people still exist. They're just not primary religion of Middle Earth. So these folks are mystics, they're magical powers. Some of them are actually somewhat demonic or of that type of caliber of power. So they exist for a purpose. They're seeking to get back their status of what they believe in through Morgoth and now Sauron. So it wasn't just like three random folks that were
Right.
just happened to be looking, because the show doesn't fill in that gap. So I don't
No,
know,
it does.
if I was the average viewer watching it, I don't know what I would take away from that. If I only seen the Lord of the Rings, like for you, you just said that it was interesting that these three showed up looking for Sauron, but it was confused. They thought Gandalf was Sauron.
Hmm.
You know.
They were confused.
In fact, people online were thinking the leader of I forgot, the nomad or the dweller. They're thinking that person was Sauron because they had the scepter with the eye and everything.
Yeah, it was. I don't think I ever went there. I mean, there was a lot of. They were trying to set up as many people as they could, even if it was just a little hint to keep you kind of on your toes. Even though they went with the, hey, you know what? Everybody knew, but we let you think otherwise. So,
We couldn't.
um,
You couldn't get me to think. You couldn't even convince me that that boy wasn't Sauron.
all right, let's do this. Let's talk about the major storylines, and because they didn't all go through all episodes, by the last 2 episodes, we walked out of the Southlands. We weren't talking about them anymore. So why don't we do that first? We'll do a quick. What did you think of the Southlands? The Numenorians coming down with their horses. little Gondor-esque. The battle, the explosion of the not Gondor,
Mordor.
Mordor. Um,
Mordor.
what a
Mount Doom. Mount Doom.
great visual of Mount Doom of that beginning of that episode where she's covered in ash and everything's
Dude,
orange. That was
that's my
beautiful.
favorite episode. When that episode of like the Mount Doom was created is my favorite episode.
Yeah, what did you think of that whole setup? Them getting attacked by the orcs, but not actually killing orcs. They killed their own people. Like, they did a great job with that, I thought. What did you guys think?
They, they. I like it in theory.
Mm-hmm.
I like it in theory, but those orcs were actually like they had the whatever orcs or like people dressed up as orcs. Like they were. I want to say they were aggressive or charging or something. Like it wasn't like they were kind of like docile humans dressed up in another part.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree.
So I understand what they were trying to do, you with that scene, but I feel like they didn't really set it up right because like I would have definitely not looked as like excited or whatever. Like you know what I'm saying? Like what are you doing?
Yeah, I think they were supposed to be shocked that they had to kill their own instead of killing orcs, and then they realized they had gotten tricked. I think that whole thing.
I'm talking about even before that. I'm talking about the actual cats who were dressed up. Like they weren't performing like people who were dressed up as orcs. Like
no.
You know what I'm saying? Like they just they didn't convince me. I feel like they missed something. Right there. They didn't convince me that these people were not willing participants before that, or like you know what I'm saying, like because they looked like they were moving orcs.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of I don't know what you want to call it, but where the director basically said, do the battle straight as if it's orcs versus humans, and then we'll show it was actually humans. Because at no point did I look at any of those battles and go, that person looks like they're holding back. That person doesn't look like they're participating fully.
Exactly.
And a lot of the
throwing a blow if you are not like with it.
Right. And a lot of the fighting that you saw was the big giant orc that was definitely an orc beating the shit out of the elf dude. So it was like they didn't want you as the audience to feel like there was something wrong, which I think could have helped a little bit of tension if you felt like there was a few unwilling participants that were like second guessing their turn to evil. Right? Yeah.
I get that. I didn't like I get the decision that they had to make. Like, okay, so like we either stick to actual like authenticity of like what would probably happen and like lose the shock factor that I'm trying to create, because you will have seen, you know what I'm saying, like these kind of lady orcs who don't look like they're attacking as I would if I'm dressed up as an orc and not wanting to be.
Right.
I get the juxtaposition, like I get the difference. I get what, like it's one in one hand, 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. I just didn't like the hand they picked.
Yeah, no, I agree. I can see that. I definitely see that they going for the shock value of, oh my god, you didn't know, but these are actually humans, lost something when you look back at between the fight and the shock, and you're like, something. Nobody felt like they weren't trying in that battle.
Yeah, like they weren't fighting, like they weren't orcs. Like,
yeah. If another human went to the dark side and then tries to kill you, it's okay. You can defend yourself. Right. Yeah. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
It's not murder then.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. You stood your ground.
It's like Mordor is Florida.
Look, looking at the Southlands, there's definitely some Florida in there. There's some Florida in that Southlands.
It did. Yeah, that damn volcano. Oh, there's a Florida somewhere out there. Florida. Florida is located in the Southlands of Middle Earth. They definitely have a Florida.
Yeah. All right. So is there anything else about that section? Anything I'm missing? Because it really was. It was interesting, but I don't. It wasn't the most interesting of the storylines, but it was very important because it sets up.
It wasn't even the worst part. I mean, to me, and this is where you and I argued about Andor versus this show. There's a lot of moments in this show to me, like the whole Numenor sequence with the dying half king, half elf king, and his daughter, and using the palantir, the spherical little eye of Thundera thing to see. To me, I know it's in a book somewhat. Eventually, it gets flooded. There's a vision, but maybe it wasn't just executed right. I had no interest or whenever they shot those scenes and that I didn't care. I was like, all right, let's just get to the elves or the dwarves or some other part of the story because I'm just not feeling this segment of the entire show. To me, that was even worse than the orc humans are pretending to be orcs during the battle. Yeah, that middle part of the show was kind of weird for me. I'm not saying it was bad. It just wasn't as intriguing as we get to the third, the last three episodes.
Yeah, the Numenor like king who can see the future, who ends up talking to Isildir's sister or something like that. Like that's all just kind of like hanging. It didn't really feel like
Oh,
it added to
sorry.
anything in this storyline. I understand
Correct.
it's going to.
That's not for this. Yeah, that's not for
Yeah.
now.
Here's another similar example just popped in my head. So Isildur, the younger kid, also dark haired, not to be confused with the other kid who thought was Sauron or not. So him and his father Elendil, Isildur is, and if you remember the old Lord of the Rings movie in the beginning, it showed you when
Mm-hmm.
Isildur cut Sauron's hand and the ring popped off, blah blah blah. That's supposed to be his character.
Right. Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
Isildur. So he's the one that eventually will become the king, and then he'd lose to the ring and get killed by orcs and so forth. So, like, we get his character is very important to the Lord of the Rings saga. But the way that they're focusing on him now, his two best friends, who one doesn't really want to fight, the other one's gung ho, and his dad, like, Isildur, you gotta man up and stuff like that. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I know it needed to give us this part of the story, but again, another example where I'm just not hooked into.
Yeah.
I just like
You're. Go ahead, Keith.
I just liked it for them introducing those parts of the story. Like
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't so much it of itself or like the meat and potatoes of what they were doing so much as like, oh, okay, that's Isildur. I know that guy. Oh, cool. He's got a backstory. Like, you know what I'm saying? Oh,
Right.
he's a fuck up little kid too. Like, okay.
Yeah,
Like,
before he was king, he was a fuck up.
I don't. I mean, yeah, but like you have to. Like, I don't have any emotional attachment to the content of the actual story more so than it's Isildur, and I know what part he plays.
Right. Yeah, I would think for me, they kind of just fill out the world a little bit. Like, you got to have people who are going to be important later, and you can't just bring them up out of nowhere. So you have to put them in here. And I understand, like, I don't care about them at this point either. Like, I know some people are really into the kid, and he's like always looking to the west or something like that, and I'm sure that's supposed to mean something, but and the possibility that he's dead. So if you don't know anything about Lord of the Rings, you think the kid's dead and the dad's got to go on without him. I didn't feel any of that. Like it didn't hit me at all. But that's okay. Like I know they fill out the world, and I know it's coming around. But at this point, like I said, like I agree, this is kind of the least important. But I think it did some good, interesting things. But it's not the show. Definitely not what I would say the peak of the show is.
But
Go ahead, Keith.
but it's like one of those things though. Like, it's a frayed edge. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because we know that Isildur has a part to play in that coming war. We know he's not dead. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
like we know he's not. Like, so now it becomes we've just filed something else away in the back of our brain that we know is going to pop up again later. So like they
Right.
literally are feeding the rest of their storyline and our interests with crumbs. And we're literally following it around. That story now could take any kind of How I Met Your Mother. You know what I'm saying? Like they can
Right.
lead us along, giving
Right.
us crumbs on stuff that we know for the future. Like now we're just trying to figure out. We're waiting on them to show us how it works out. But
Right.
we know that okay, we know he's going to be alive to die during that battle.
Not me.
Right.
I see those crumbs and I'm sweeping it up and putting it in my dust pail and throwing it in the garbage where it belongs. Not interested.
All right. For me, though, the most interesting part of this whole section is Adar. Like, I love this character so much.
Yeah,
I
who is
love
he?
I love the idea that he thinks he killed Sauron, and like many
Maybe
of
he
the
did.
right, like many of the best
Yeah, maybe.
villains or antagonists, or however you want to put it, he's doing something that he thinks, at least in his vision, is good, and he's creating a home for his kids, right? Like at the expense of other people, you know. We know a few we know a few villains like that at the expense of other people, but they don't care. But they're doing something that they think in the long run is righteous. And one of the best scenes of this show was when he gets captured and Galadriel basically turns into the villain while she's basically telling him, I'm gonna commit genocide on
Yeah,
your
I'm gonna
family."
find every one of your kind before you die and kill them all, so you know that we.
Right?
Yeah, that's perfect writing.
Yeah. So what did you guys think of Adar and his storyline and that stuff?
He's cool.
Well, Adar, yeah, I was gonna say again, following Reddit and all the stuff, stuff feeds and social media. He was another Sauron candidate. He was another one, and I thought maybe, but I don't know. Again, for following the books, he doesn't look that fair. Again, I was totally wrong. I'm thinking the books he's gonna seem more like a elven type of person. Definitely not this guy. This guy's deformed. In fact, he was one of the first kind of half elf, half orc created by Morgoth. He seems to definitely be down the dark path. He's rallying the orcs. We know where Sauron is of the orcs.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I like his character. I like how cool, calm, and collected he was throughout the battle. How he put the chess pieces where he had the humans go first, and then the elven archers. Like he had strategy about everything he was doing. Obviously, he was caught at the last minute because of the Numenors came through. But even while he was handcuffed and captured, he still seemed like he had the upper hand. And I don't know whether it's a combination of the actor himself, the writing of the story of the character, or whatever it was, but he was very interesting. I looked, he was not in the books, he was created for the show. And I really liked his character all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody has any questions about the Mordor release valve. Like,
Oh yeah, I had questions.
like
I
As
think
an
that
engineer, I had tons of questions.
I
how
think
do
that
you
Riddler set that up.
who even builds that? Like what were you doing when you built that fail safe? Like, what were you doing when you built that fail safe in that sword was the key for? The sword is the key to to creating this whole world, this whole land. Like, why did you just create it? Like, why did you? Like, I don't
Look,
understand. And I'm a
look,
fairy tale person. I love the mythic X, Y, and Z, and to pull the sword from the stone, but come on, yo, it gotta make sense, yo, and that, like, oh,
The effort it took just to build that whole
just to build that
mechanism,
whole thing, like,
like
serious?
dude, it's
Why
like
didn't you just go ahead and do it then?
it's
Like, why didn't
it,
you just do it?
it's like every single like Indiana Jones thing where you're like, why don't you just like bury it? Like, why are you setting up a 6-ton rock to fall on the person who picks it up? Just fucking bury it if you don't want people to have it. But man,
Because
like
the what are you
effort
doing?
the effort involved to hide things in plain sight is funny. Like I get it. It's hysterical.
It's like, do you not want people to find it, or you just want the right person to find
Right.
it? Like,
Yeah, my favorite. I was listening to the Ringer podcast, and they were talking about they were upset that the elf guy was holding that little wooden axe wrapped up, and he didn't know the difference in the sword hilt.
Oh,
Like
yes.
I was like, yeah, man, that guy should. I mean, he pulled it out. He was looking at it. He was banging on it. He's an elf. He should fucking
I
know.
mean, dude, how did that freaking little boy spot freaking John Legend elf hiding it there behind closed doors? There's no windows in that place. You remembered, like to me, like, and they gave you like a little clue that he was looking at him when he was outside. But once the door was closed, he had no idea where he was hiding that shit. But he had when his mother's under duress, he goes, "I know where it is," and picks the right cobble freaking block. Yep, here we go, right here. I mean, at this
Yeah,
point, you got yeah.
yeah. There's definitely a few leap of faiths that that you have to set
a
up
couple,
here.
just a couple.
Just a couple. Um,
And hold on, you want to get deep? If Sauron knew the purpose of that key, why was he acting so hard to help Galadriel capture Adar? And that epic horse riding scene, which is very epic, by the way. Galadriel's riding the horse, and the horse goes to super pursuit mode. She whispers whatever, like, what's the name for the Lord of the Ring? And the horse goes even faster. And all of a sudden, you see Halbrand at the time with the spear to help capture him. I'm like, why go through all the shenanigans? Like, you already got the key. It's done. Like, you can stop pretending with these humans and move on to the elves.
well, I think that once he decides that more than setting up Mordor, the important part is basically getting Galadriel on his side and continuing with his that deception is more important.
But he
Like
told her
at
the truth, bro.
yeah, after she figured it out. She figured it out
No,
She
first.
figured it out.
after what? But listen to what he
Oh,
was saying. Like, listen to what he was saying. It was not like he was lying to her all the time. When
No,
he,
he
when,
was.
even when she told him, even when she was like, oh, like you could, they gave him back the kingship or whatever it was, intimate conversation they was having. He was like, yo, like I'm not a good person. I've done very bad things. Like, like I don't know if you really like you don't know me. Like he's
Yeah.
telling her that.
He
He's
gave
telling
her
her.
he gave
And
her
now
every opportunity.
he
Yeah.
gave her every opportunity to spin off for herself.
Mm-hmm.
Not knowing that he's Sauron, I'm telling you, I'm fucked up.
That's right. She did not care about those red flags at all.
At all. She didn't care about
She was flying that red banner. It was
yo.
okay.
In fact,
She
Sauron was the one
thought
that
that he was
stopped her
speaking from the
from
standpoint
killing Adar.
of man. She thought that he was speaking like, no, you just saved like thousands of people. Like whatever you did, no, it's not don't worry about it because she's not. It's beyond her mind that he could even be Sauron.
Well, at this point, the way Sauron talks to her at the end, it's all about he's in this weird duality of I want to heal and connect the land, but I know I'm kind of like doing it by ruling everybody, but I think I'm a good guy. Like I really kind of want to heal the land, and you want to do it with me, right? Like there is this pull on him that's not just straight like I'm gonna take over and everybody's just gonna do my thing. He kind of wants everybody to buy in. Like he wants some buy-in.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's
He
easier
wants
that.
willing subjects.
Yeah,
Yeah, willing subject. By the way, this is only with the elves, though. It's not with the humans and the lower forms of beings on Middle Earth. Yeah, obviously, the elves are a little more sophisticated. Like, you need the elves to buy into that. Whereas the humans, they're by nature, according to the show, I'm not saying in real life,
Yeah.
are corrupt. By
Right.
nature, they seek power. That's why the
those are the
nine,
ones.
was it the nine kings of man, were easily corrupted with the rings.
Mm-hmm.
The root
Yeah.
And the elves think the same thing as Sauron. The elves think the humans are crap too.
all of them do. Elves, dwarves, all of them actually look at the humans as being like the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's pretty much the The only one who doesn't is, well, I guess if you think of it that way, the same thing as the creation myth. If you watch a lot of, I'm watching Supernatural. We're doing a Supernatural watch,
Hell yeah, bravo.
and all of the angels think the humans are the problem. Like all
Yeah.
the angels, they're
Yeah.
like, these pieces of shit, parasites wandering around. Right.
But here's what's-
Yeah,
but here's
it's
what's
literally
funny.
the Supernatural is the same thing here. Like they're like, these people are the problem. Why is anybody protecting them?
And here's the interesting thing. We're writing all this content. Like human beings are creating this content. It's the most self-hating. It's the most self-hating. like we've literally wrote the hate of human beings into our myths and legends.
This is why people like Star Trek because it's a little happier, a little makes it feel good, a little feel good about
it's
humans.
too highbrow. Star Trek is a little altruistic and highbrow. By the way, there's another race.
I'm
There's
a Battlestar
another.
Galactica guy myself.
Real quick, the dwarves. We didn't mention them, but I did like the story that the little storyline they had with Aragon. Who was it? Aragon? Yeah, Aragon, who becomes
Elrond?
Elrond. Sorry, Aragon. Elrond, who we know from again Lord of the Rings, played by the same actor who played Red Skull
Hugo
and
Weaving.
Hugo Weaving in The Matrix. Also, he played Mr. Smith. I like the casting of the younger version of him. Looks somewhat like him, that weird eyebrow thing. I like that storyline about
Great
the
storyline.
prince and the king and the Seek of Mithril and all that stuff. I thought that was cool. That was a nice, again, that took me away from the Numenors and all the other plots I didn't care about.
Probably my second favorite storyline. So yeah, let's
Yes,
go into the.
let's speak on that one, because that one storyline actually did a lot. It did a lot of tying up, like future, like past and present.
Khazad-dûm, like what happened to that here?
Khazad-dûm, and why the actual Balrog was down there that deep, and like they really literally their explanation for how Mithril was like how Mithril was made explains why they were destroyed. And it also, like, that whole thing between the king and the son, the dwarf king and the son, is that, like, yo, he's really stopping you from destroying the joint. You don't even realize it.
Okay, can we talk about how the two kings are actually right for once?
Yes.
So the Elven King is like, yo, you have to stop or something bad's going to happen. And the same goes for the Dwarf King. He's like, you have to stop or shit's going to go bad. They are right. Never when I've watched a fantasy series has the person in charge actually been like honest, right, and being like we just got to slow down.
They're playing on something, though.
Yeah.
If you think about it, it keeps my guard halfway up only because, like, the writers and they know we know. So, like, I'm watching all these things, like, they know I'm gonna think this is such and such. They know. So I can't even believe that what I'm being given me is actually what I'm thinking it is.
Right.
Which is another layer I actually like.
I think because in most societies, we watch like stuff like this. We're on the side of the challenger to like a dictatorship or a kingship. We're thinking the king is wrong. What does he know? This up and coming person is looking for progress, whether it be liberal progress, whatever. I'm not to get into politics, but we kind of side on the challenger, thinking they have a better way of doing this than like the established government, king, monarchy.
Exactly. Yeah, and you automatically you're like, Galadriel, she wants to take care of the evil. She wants to press forward. They're stopping her progress, but in reality, when you look at what's going on, even the queen, Numenor, her initial reaction is like, this is not good. This is going to lead to ruin, and she's right, but she gets turned around by a little bit by mostly by Galadriel. but by Galadriel pulling Sauron into it.
She sent Galadriel away. She was sending Galadriel away. What she got turned around by was their own myths and legends. That's what she got turned around by, because when she was sending, she sent her away already. She's walking. She turns around, walks away, and sees the leaves. Sees the leaves falling off of the what you call it plant, the tree.
It's exactly what happened to. It's exactly what.
And this, that, and the other. She calls Galadriel back. She doesn't like that. That wasn't Galadriel convincing her of anything. That was their own. That was their own myths and legends that pushed that particular button. Mm-hmm. That's it.
And it's exactly what happened to the Elf King. He sent Galadriel away, and then his tree started to fall, and then she came back on her own. But it's like it's these little parallels of these people in charge trying to be a little guys, just take a step, but everything being pushed. I love the parallels in the show, like when the digging too far parallel. Like we see what happens when the Elrond and what's the dwarf's name? I can't for whatever.
I forgot his name. Oh, god damn it! What is his name?
Durin.
Yeah, the Durin son, and they push too far. They find what they're looking for, but at the bottom of that pit is danger. And the same thing with Galadriel. She pushes too far, and at the bottom is this in the sky. Mordor shows up, or Mount Doom.
Yeah, but Chris, they both make compelling cases why they're doing it. When Galadriel's arguing back about Sauron's existence still being around,
and she's right too.
And when Duran, which to me was probably one of the best acting scenes, when he's arguing against his father, he's like, "You've always held me back. You don't believe in me," and I'm sitting there like, yo, this is compelling. Like, Duran's at that moment, I'm like, yo, this king is one of those old fuddy-duddies who doesn't see progress, he wants his son to be king, but doesn't really believe in his son. And I'm like, yo, and his wife comes to console him. She's like, I'm your ride or die. I got you.
Oh, she's like, fuck your dad, yo. Like, we're about to take this shit over. Just relax.
Yeah, man. Relax. Your time is bidding. You bide your time. It's coming. And you root for that until they show you, like you're about to say, Chris, when I cut you off, when they show you the danger.
She was ready to, like, who got to get axed? Who's getting axed?
She even said, I think she even called the king out, and he was like, whoa, bite your tongue, sweetie. He stole my father. He stole my father. Whoa.
Calm down.
And he's your king. She goes, okay. She goes, I may have been a bit brash.
Brash? You told me my dad, yo. Like, what are you talking about?
No, that was good. You're right. The dwarf, everything with the dwarves, everything with Durin, his wife, his dad, Elrond, that has been so deep, so compelling, so amazing to watch. It's funny because after watching The Hobbit with all of those dwarfs, none of that compared to what we've seen here, and how
that was a total humanization of like whatever little scene bubble that the dwarf elf, what you call it, Elrond and those dwarves in that particular scene bubble, like they created so much humanity among those. I really, yeah.
All right. And I love the comedy of that table scene where he's like, this table is made of something that's really important to my people. Like, he's just making shit up. Do you guys like? And he just gives the Elf King to give him like this brand new table set. Like, I don't know why, but it was funny as hell. Like, I was like, okay. I guess his wife wanted a new table, and he's like, oh, I like this one. I guess you want. So
yeah,
that was
definitely
funny.
High marks for the show is the entire dwarven story.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
I think so. Like that was the most genuine.
Mm-hmm. And I guess we'll finish off with talking about the most important storyline, which is the Galadriel Halbrand storyline, which is also, I think, really, really compelling to watch, really interesting. As Galadriel goes from this single-minded warrior and everybody just trying to get her to stop, pushing her away, and she just will not let up, and she finds a way, and that's normally the character you're like, go, 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 but it comes back around and just.
She's getting elves killed. She's this, that, like, yo, like, she's just irritating, like, and then there's no bad guy for you. Like, there's no bad guy for you to be putting this much energy into. Like, you haven't unearthed the elves is dying. You're saying, like, go the fuck home, yo, like, go home.
She had the chance to go to the Elven Heaven, Valinor.
She jumped off the boat to heaven. How you look heaven in the face and be like, nah, I'm good. I got shit to do.
And mind you, she did this without knowing that she'd never get back out because she's in the middle of the ocean.
She jumped
didn't know there would be a ship.
with
Like, was she just...
You know, I gotta blame her brother. Her brother gave her some bad advice. Her brother should have just been like, you see the light, you go towards the light. Don't jump in the water. Just go towards the light.
Her brother gave her the equivalent of, like, be strong and don't fall for evil.
Yeah, there's a lot of parables. Yeah, he's talking a lot of parables. I don't like the character.
Interpretation. She going way too hard.
Yeah. All right, bring us home, Chris. Bring us home.
You got to talk about that There's two scenes we have to talk about. Sorry, go ahead, Keith. I was just gonna say this.
I didn't know if we were gonna cover it, but I thought something that was very interesting. As we're talking about Galadriel. Now, we know her from the original. I mean, from the first Lord of the Rings.
Right.
It's interesting to see how intimately she's tied into the whole thing happening. So it makes her presence and, like, how she was treating the whole thing, it gives it a whole different texture.
Oh yeah, it feels a lot deeper, especially when they pick the words. When they pluck those words down and they put them right here, and we like talking about this scene. The biggest scene, just like wonderful to watch, is when she confronts him with the fact that he's not the king of the Southland. That doesn't exist. That's just a fake. And then he comes forward and he goes through the whole range of it. He goes through the I told you what I was. Like and look, this is what happened. I saved you.
Like she literally
and we and then we can be together. Look, you can stand by my side. I love you're awesome. Like I love your fire. Like
had he waited one more day to tell her, he was sorry, he could have probably smashed. He could probably smash her.
Oh my God.
Then tell her that, like, oh shit, now it's too late. You already smashed Sauron. It's too late.
Yeah, she was feeling
the tie that binds, though, like her brother's dagger is melted into the first rings.
I was not prepared for watching that.
Sacrifice to make the first rings, which are the problem in this whole storyline.
No, don't because they make them not Sauron. Aren't they not as affected? Like this is what confusing me.
They're still affected.
Those are the first rings, and it's only three of those.
Three of the Elven rings,
But instead of one, like I love that she says instead of one, which can be corrupted, instead of two that can be separated, make three.
That can be separated. We're gonna make three. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you go, okay, so real quick, because
she wants
right to this point.
All to maintain. She wants the dwarves to maintain. I mean, the elves to maintain all of them, all of those three. Mm-hmm. But remember, this three eventually turns into 7 or 5. Oh, wait, well, how many rings?
There's more than that. There's 3 for the elves, I think 5 for the dwarves, and 9 for the dwarves and 11 for the kings of men, something like that.
So we literally got seasons to go. We got seasons to go. They only did the elven ones now. But she was responsible for the first rings. Like, she literally, like, the daggers was responsible for the first ring.
And Keith, if you remember the opening of Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, is Galadriel's the one narrating the story. As they show you the darkness, the ring is twirling. She goes and she gives you the story, and if she tells you the elves, kings, and everybody, but then deep in Mordor, one ring was created by Sauron. So she's narrating the story. Now you look at it totally different because
Because
guess
she
what?
knows the story. She
You
was
know you
there.
were part of that story.
Yeah, like she could have ended it with like, well, my ex. See what happened was, um, he got a little too frisky up on a first date, right? No, but
I mean,
that's
I didn't see any hints that he might be a serial killer. However, there was some
Listen,
questionable moments.
like
but
ladies, make sure you look at the red flags.
yeah,
Pay
right.
attention to the
Look.
red flags.
When they're on the raft, when they're like in her mind and they're kind of going through their history, and he grabs her chin and he turns her, I was like, are we gonna get somewhere? Like it was close. Like you can see it. This is some great acting between the two because before they flipped to like yelling at each other, which was also a great, really close up, it was like, I think she's thinking about it. She is definitely contemplating.
He said that he waited one more day, he would smash. That's the cold open. Anyway,
All right. Why don't we give a final any final words you have and just your grades, please.
final words for me, real quick. I mean, we talked about the finale. I don't think we missed much other than the fact that we know Mordor was created. We know now Sauron has created the first three rings. He's moving on. Um, the Queen of Numenor is blind, trying to pretend that she's not blind.
No.
Isildur is missing in action.
Though.
I mean, sorry, yeah, you're right. She's not pretending anymore. She's coming back home. Isildur is missing in action, as far as we know.
Dead.
And the Dwarven prince has now found Mithril exists deep in Khazad Dûm, and also is awakened of Balrog, presumably the same Balrog that we'll see in Lord of the Rings. I think this entire first season was world and character building. Done beautifully in the second half of the season. I wasn't too much fan of the first three episodes. The second half of the season. So that being said, I cannot go any lower than an A minus, and I'm gonna stick with the A minus as my grade.
All right. All right. Keith.
Um, I feel like there's a lot to appreciate about this piece of content. I think like it's very layered in its offerings. I actually like the different kinds of. I'm gonna use layers again, but the different layers of entertainment and interest that it provides, and I like how how it's weaving itself into the history of a product we already knew, and really kind of like keeping our interest while it's doing that, and I like that. I I like the little Easter eggs that pop up and like our dot connectors. I think I think that they're doing an epic job of that. Like um, the, the 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 production to the casting, I feel was like on point. The storyline again compelling. It's captured me. Like this is Chris said it, and I agree with him. This is probably the best show of the year, if not the show of the year. Um, if not one of them. Um, I couldn't give this product any less than an A plus. And I feel like next season, I feel like all of the seasons now,
Mm-hmm.
or at least these next three seasons, are going to cover the making of those groups of rings.
All right.
Hold
So
on, Chris. Before you go, one last thing. I thought Chris Keith was gonna say it. But we totally forgot about the Gandalf Stranger and how the ending of the finale, also sets a story with the one Harfoot and the Stranger, and see where that takes them. And how do we get this Stranger to become fully formed Gandalf? That's
right.
another interesting season two
They're
possibility as
also
well.
they're also explaining Gandalf's love of the hobbits.
I thought it was just the weed they had. I thought that's really what brought him
I
over.
was
But
looking for that. I didn't see any signs of them smoking. I was looking for that shit.
like yo, like literally, like their ancestors saved his life.
I was actually going to bring up the Hobbits as my last bit because I just love them so much. I think they bring a lightness that you otherwise may miss in some of these heavier episodes, and I think that's important to show that there's parts of the world that are covered in ash and are basically going to hell and are in battle, and then you pop over and these Harfoots are like they're having to deal with somebody dying to a set of bees, right? Or they're moving along and oh shit, like we don't have apples now because like the volcano went off. Like everybody's like it's different for different parts of the area and affects them differently, but there are effects. And I love seeing how things echo and affect the world, and the Harfoots are that great great window into that. And I think the character work, I love Nori and all of them. They're
What?
right. They're great fun. I love the music. I'm one of the few people who actually loves it when the dwarves sing, and so I love it when the Harfoots sing. I love that kind of stuff. I think it's fun, and I think it adds to the texture of the world. So it's just something I love. And I'm with Keith here. I'm going to give this an A+. I know it's not perfect. We were laughing about the key to unlock Mount Doom and the whole thing, but this is about you can have little hiccups like that, but overall entertainment value and just the care that I feel is being put into this is up there with some of the other things. We've given several A+ this year. I'm surprised. I have never given this many A+.
I think Severance was the only thing I gave an A+ to, but go ahead.
I gave an A+ to Severance. I gave an A+ to this, and I believe there's one other. I don't know off the top of my head what it is, but I know there's one other this year. Or maybe I'm thinking of whatever. Anyway, so I just love this. I'm so entertained, and visually, it is the most rich. It's like the deepest, darkest chocolate to my eyes. It's just that rich. It's that colorful. It's beautiful. All right, so that's our score or our grades for season 1 of Rings of Power. Go watch it. It is definitely a wonderful tale, and I'm glad for this is. An extension of what I think is still the best trilogy on film at this point.
Yeah. It's sad. We got to wait till 2024 before we get season 2.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the amount of production value going into this, I kind of understand, but it is hard to think that we're gonna have to go that long before we get any more.
All right.
All right, guys.
So, Hero Peakers, you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all your social media platforms, channels, and links. Hit the like button, subscribe. I don't know what direction they at. That's Mike's job. Give us a thumbs up. Leave a comment. Please leave a comment. Let's get some good dialogue about this show. Obviously, these are getting A- to A+. It's a great show. Let's get your feedback. Let's start some dialogue and conversations about the show. See what you think about the reveal of Sauron. What do you think about Galadriel possibly smashing Sauron? What do you think about the Harfoots? What do you think about all the characters? Did you like the production as much as we did, or did you think the CGI was a little hokey in the first couple episodes? Whatever it is, leave a comment below. Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you all next week.
Hey,
Later.
Indigo made the beat.